Sometimes, God will remove things from your life before He adds anything new. And when that happens, it feels painful. Because suddenly, the things you depended on begin to disappear. People change. Plans fail. Doors close. Things stop working the way they used to. And in those moments, you feel confused. You start asking, why is everything falling apart? Why does it feel like I'm losing so much? Why would God allow this? But what if things are not falling apart? What if they are being cleared away? Because sometimes, before God can take you higher, He has to remove what is keeping you stuck. The habits that drain you. The people that limit you. The mindset that keeps you doubting yourself. And that removal process. It's uncomfortable. Because growth is uncomfortable. Transformation is uncomfortable. Becoming someone new requires letting go of who you used to be. And that's not easy. Because even pain can become familiar. Even unhealthy situations can feel safe when you've lived in them long enough. But God sees beyond your comfort. He sees your potential. He sees the version of you that's waiting to emerge. Stronger. Wiser. More focused. And sometimes, the only way to become that person is through separation. Separation from distractions. Separation from toxic environments. Separation from old versions of yourself. And while that separation feels lonely, it's necessary. Because in isolation, you hear yourself more clearly. You think more deeply. You begin to understand what truly matters. And slowly, your priorities start changing. You stop chasing things that no longer fulfill you. You stop trying to force connections that drain your peace. You stop seeking validation from people who never truly understood you. Because now, you are learning something greater. Your worth was never dependent on external approval. Your value was always within you. And realizing that changes everything. Because now, you move differently. You stop begging for attention. You stop proving yourself to everyone. You stop shrinking yourself to fit places you've outgrown. Instead, you begin to stand in your truth. Quietly. Confidently. Without fear. And that confidence, it doesn't come from ego. It comes from healing. From finally understanding that you don't need to chase what's meant for you. You simply need to become aligned with it. And alignment requires honesty. Honesty about your life. Honesty about your habits. Honesty about the things that are holding you back. Because deep down, you already know what needs to change. You already know what no longer belongs in your life. You've just been afraid to let it go. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of starting over. Afraid of uncertainty. But here's the truth. Starting over is not failure. It's preparation. Because every new beginning first feels like an ending. And right now, you may be standing in that ending. Watching old parts of your life disappear. Feeling uncertain about what comes next. But don't mistake uncertainty for destruction. God is rebuilding you. Piece by piece. Thought by thought. Moment by moment. into someone stronger than before. Someone who no longer settles. Someone who no longer doubts their worth. Someone who walks with faith instead of fear. And that rebuilding process, it takes time. There will be days where you don't understand anything. Days where you feel tired. Days where you wonder if anything is actually changing. But even on those days, something is happening. You are becoming more aware, more patient, more resilient, more connected to who you truly are. And one day, you'll look back at this season of your life and realize what felt like loss was actually protection. What felt like rejection was actually redirection. What felt like isolation was actually preparation. Because God was not punishing you. He was preparing you. Preparing you for peace. Preparing you for growth. Preparing you for a life that finally aligns with who you are becoming. So don't fear this season. Don't resist the changes. Don't hold on to what God is trying to remove. Because what's ahead of you requires a new version of you. And that version is already being created. Right now. In silence. In struggle. In growth. So trust the process. Trust the waiting. Trust the rebuilding. Because when God removes everything, it's often because He's about to rebuild your life in a way you never imagined. And during this rebuilding season, there will be moments where you feel completely alone. Not because nobody exists around you, but because nobody truly understands what you're carrying inside. You smile in front of people, but deep down, your mind is fighting battles you never talk about. You try to stay strong. You try to stay hopeful. But some nights, it becomes difficult. Some nights, you sit in silence wondering if things will ever change. Wondering if all this pain actually has meaning. And that silence, it can feel heavy. Because when God is rebuilding your life, He often removes noise first. The distractions. The false comfort. The things that kept your mind busy, but never truly healed you. And without those distractions, you are finally left alone. With yourself. Your thoughts. Your fears. Your wounds. And that can be uncomfortable. Because healing requires honesty. Real honesty. The kind where you stop pretending everything is okay. The kind where you finally admit you've been exhausted. Emotionally tired. Mentally drained. Spiritually empty. Trying to carry everything alone. Trying to be strong for everyone else, while secretly falling apart inside. But here's what you need to understand. God sees that pain. Every silent tear. Every hidden struggle. Every moment where you almost gave up. He sees all of it. Even when nobody else does. And that's why this season matters. Because this is not just about changing your life. It's about healing your soul. Healing the parts of you that learned to survive, but never truly learned to rest. Healing the part of you that constantly overthinks. The part that fears rejection. The part that believes you're not enough. Because deep down, you've carried wounds for a long time. Wounds from disappointment. Wounds from betrayal. Wounds from being misunderstood. And over time, those wounds shaped how you see yourself. They made you doubt your worth. They made you question your value. They made you feel like you always had to prove yourself to deserve love, respect, acceptance. But God is trying to show you something greater. You were already worthy. Even in your brokenness. Even in your confusion. Even in your lowest moments. You never needed to earn your value. You only needed to remember it. And this rebuilding season, it's helping you remember. Slowly. Painfully sometimes. But truthfully. Because God is removing every false belief that kept you trapped. Every lie that told you you weren't good enough. Every fear that convinced you to play small. And as those things leave your life, you begin to see yourself differently. Not through fear. Not through shame. But through truth. You begin to realize you survived things that once nearly destroyed you. You kept going. When life became overwhelming, you stayed alive through pain that nobody even noticed. And that means something. That strength inside you. It's real. And now, God is teaching you how to use that strength for growth instead of survival. Because you were not created just to suffer endlessly. You were created to live. To grow. To become. And becoming requires transformation. It requires letting old versions of yourself die. The fearful version. The insecure version. The version that settled for less. Because where God is taking you, that version of you cannot go. You need a stronger mindset. A clearer vision. And one day. Not today. Not tomorrow. But one day. Everything will finally make sense. The pain. The waiting. The closed doors. The lonely nights. All of it. You'll look back at this season of your life. And realize that nothing was random. Every delay had purpose. Every struggle carried a lesson. Every moment that broke you was also building you. Because sometimes God allows your heart to break so your spirit can awaken. Sometimes He removes comfort so you can discover your true strength. And at first, you don't understand that. At first, it just feels unfair. You wonder why life became so heavy. Why things suddenly became difficult. Why people changed. Why plans failed. Why the path became unclear. But later, you understand. Because if those things never happened, you never would have changed. You never would have grown. You never would have discovered who you truly are. And that discovery, it changes your entire life. Because now, you no longer define yourself by what happened to you. You define yourself by how you rose from it. By how you continued. By how you kept moving forward. Even when everything inside you wanted to quit. And that strength, it becomes part of you forever. Not temporary strength. Not fake confidence. Real strength. The kind built through pain. The kind built through survival. The kind built through moments where you had nobody to rely on except God and yourself. And those moments, they shape you deeply. Because they teach you How powerful you truly are. Not powerful because life was easy, but powerful because you endured. Because you stayed. Because despite everything, you didn't give up. And one day, that survival will become wisdom. You'll start helping others who are going through the same darkness you once faced. You'll speak with understanding. You'll comfort people with sincerity. Because your pain will give birth to purpose. That's why none of this is wasted. Not the tears. Not the heartbreak. Not the confusion. All of it is becoming part of your story. A story of growth. A story of transformation. A story of someone who refused to stay broken. And maybe right now, you still feel tired. Maybe part of you still feels uncertain. But don't let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. Because your story is not finished yet. There are still blessings you haven't seen. Still doors waiting to open. Still moments of peace you haven't experienced yet. And when those moments finally arrive, you'll understand why God made you wait. Because delayed doesn't mean denied. It means prepared. Prepared mentally. Prepared emotionally. Prepared spiritually. Because what's coming next requires a version of you that is stronger than before. And that stronger version is already being created. Every day you keep going. Every time you choose faith over fear. Every moment you continue. Despite the pain, you are becoming. Slowly. Quietly. Powerfully. So trust this season. Even if it hurts. Even if it feels confusing. Because what feels like destruction right now may actually be divine redirection. God is not abandoning you. He is guiding you. Even through silence. Even through pain. Even through uncertainty. So keep walking forward. Keep trusting. Keep believing. Because one day, you will wake up and realize everything you went through was leading you to the person you were always meant to become. And on that day, you won't regret the struggle. You'll be grateful it changed you. And maybe, right now, you still don't fully see it. Maybe you still wake up some mornings feeling uncertain. Maybe there are still nights where your thoughts become heavy. Maybe there are still moments where fear quietly whispers, what if nothing changes? But listen carefully. Everything is already changing. Not all at once. Not loudly. But deeply. Because the greatest transformations in life rarely happen in front of everyone. They happen in silence. Within the heart. Within the mind. Within the soul. And that's exactly where your transformation began. Not when life became easier. But when you decided not to give up. That decision changed everything. The moment you kept going. Despite the pain. You stepped into a new version of yourself. A stronger version. A wiser version. A version that no longer breaks every time life becomes difficult. Because now, you've seen what survival looks like. You've seen yourself rise from moments that nearly destroyed you. You've seen yourself continue even when nobody knew how hard it truly was. And that matters more than you realize. Because pain either destroys people or awakens them. And you are awakening. Awakening to your strength. Awakening to your purpose. Awakening to the realization that your life is bigger than your fear. And fear, it no longer controls you the same way. Because you've already survived what you once thought you couldn't survive. So now, even though uncertainty still exists, you move differently. You trust more. You breathe more. You stop trying to force every answer. Because you understand. Life unfolds in seasons. And every season has purpose. The painful seasons teach strength. The lonely seasons teach self-awareness. The waiting seasons teach patience. And the difficult seasons, they teach faith. Not weak faith. Real faith. The kind of faith that keeps walking. Even when the road is dark. The kind of faith that believes. Even when there is no immediate proof. And that faith, it's growing inside you now. Every single day. Quietly. Steadily. Like a light that refuses to go out. And one day, you will thank yourself for not quitting. You will thank yourself for surviving the hard days. Because those hard days created the person you are becoming now. A person with depth. A person with wisdom. A person who understands pain without becoming bitter. A person who knows struggle without losing kindness. And in a world where so many people become cold after suffering, you remained soft. You remained human. You remained capable of hope. And that is strength. Real strength. Not pretending to never hurt. Not pretending to never struggle. But continuing anyway. Loving anyway. Believing anyway. And because of that, your future is changing. Not because of luck. But because of growth. Because the person you are becoming now will no longer accept less than they deserve. You will no longer settle for confusion. You will no longer stay where your peace is constantly disturbed. You will no longer abandon yourself, trying to make others comfortable. Because now, you understand your value. Not from ego, but from healing. And healing changes everything. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what you chase. It changes how you see yourself. Because healing reminds you, you were never weak for struggling. You were strong for continuing. And now, as you stand between your past and your future, something powerful is happening. The old version of you is fading. The fearful version. The exhausted version. The version that constantly doubted itself. And in its place, a new version is rising. A calmer version. A wiser version. A version rooted in faith instead of fear. And this new version of you will build a different life. A peaceful life. A meaningful life. A life aligned with truth. Not perfection. Not constant success. But peace. Real peace. The kind that remains. Even when life becomes uncertain. Because now, your peace no longer depends on circumstances. It comes from within. From your growth. From your understanding. From your relationship with God. And once you find peace within yourself, nothing outside of you can fully destroy you anymore. So if you are still struggling right now, if you are still waiting, If you are still healing, don't lose hope. This season is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your transformation. The beginning of clarity. The beginning of peace. The beginning of becoming the person God always knew you could be. So keep going. Even slowly. Even quietly. Just keep going. Because one day, you will look back at this version of yourself. The tired version. The confused version. The hurting version. And you will feel proud. Proud that you didn't quit. Proud that you kept believing. Proud that you survived long enough to finally see the light again. And when that day comes, you'll realize something beautiful. God was never ignoring you. He was preparing you. Preparing your heart. Preparing your spirit. Preparing your future. And every painful moment. Every silent battle. Every lonely night. Was leading you here. To this moment. To this growth. To this new beginning. So trust where you are. Trust what God is doing within you. And trust the person you are becoming. Because your story